The program presented are submitted by members of our community and are a proud sponsor of KNY 91.1 FM. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect those of KNY 91.1 FM and its affiliates.
Good day. My name is Rigoberto Gutierrez, and this is KNLY 91.1 Radio The Boss with our segment Elections 2020. We are here with our guest, Elizabeth Hernandez, who is running to be the Democratic candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, before we start with our interview, our formal interview, I'd like to ask you for a brief civics lesson. And this is, what is Congress?
Well, the Congress is
the U.S. Congress. Yes.
U.S. Congress is made up of the House and the Senate. The House has 435 representatives that represent the districts in the United States. Those are based on the population. So Texas, for example, has 36 districts, so we have 36 representatives. And that is about 8%, or it is 8% of the United States. So it's a pretty large part of the House.
Yes, considering we have 50 states.
Yes.
Which would be an average of 2%.
Yes, correct.
But this is 8%.
Yes, and then the Senate has 50, so it's 50 states, 2 representatives for each state. So it does not matter, the population. It's just, so it's not as balanced for population. It's just 100.
Yes. And what does the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate do?
So their job is to pass bills, make laws, pass bills, investigate, and allocate the funding that is going to be used with our money. Where's the money going to go? First, it goes to the House, and then those bills that are passed in the House by a majority go to the Senate, and then those are voted on there.
So, in these elections, we have the general election, and then we have the primaries. For the longest time, and I'm pretty old, didn't know what the primaries were. Could you explain the difference between the primaries and the general elections, and then the dates,
Yes.
the early voting, and et cetera?
Yes. So the primary is on March 3rd. Early voting actually starts tomorrow for that.
Great.
Through the 21st, if I'm not mistaken. The primary is very important, and it doesn't get as much attention. Usually the people that are very politically involved will pay attention to the primaries, but that's where you have your option of candidates. So I have one primary opponent on the Democratic Party, Laura Jones. I'm Elizabeth Hernandez. I think...
Is this for active members only?
No, everybody. Everybody can vote in the primary. And it's important because this is your chance to say who you want to represent you, who's going to best represent you, and who's going to go on to move on to the general election, which is in November 3rd.
To compete with the Republican candidate.
The Republican candidate. And they also have a primary as well. And they will choose their candidate, and then you'll have 2 that will go to the November 3rd election.
So now to the interview. Why are you running for Congress?
Well, I feel very strongly about wealth inequality. It's kind of a problem that has perpetuated going back to our ancestors to now. I want to address that, and one of the ways that I want to do that is by amending the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Well, amending part of it, reinstating those tax rates that are in effect for the people that are making over $500,000 a year. That money is not being put back into the economy. Somebody that makes $40,000 a month, they're not going to do anything with an extra $2,000. If you give the working class people an extra $2,000 a month or them tax breaks, they're going to reinvest that money. And
I didn't quite understand how you're going to do that. How could you repeat that, please?
So reinstating those tax cuts. So a lot of our problems are fiscal in nature, because we have to have money for everything.
Yes.
Medicare, Social Security, funding education, all of that costs money. And so we have to figure out, or Congress does, where the money's going to come from and where we're going to put it. And when Brady was the writer of that bill,
Which is our current
it was
representative.
passed in, yes, he's our current representative on the Republican side. That was passed in 2018. I think I view it as a tax scam. They made the people think that they were going to be, getting tax breaks. And we did get some small tax breaks, but really the majority of those tax breaks went to the corporations and the wealthy people at the top.
But that was to stimulate the economy more. They were supposed to reinvest that money
Correct.
into more equipment,
And
installations.
that's where I come to the point of if I'm already making $40,000 a month, am I really going to do something with an extra $1,000 or $2,000? They're going to pocket it, because that for them is not really anything. That's pennies to them. So it's wrong. I mean, the Republicans have this opinion of trickle down economics, and I don't think that really works. So by reinstating those tax rates for the wealthy, we increase our revenues. We cut our debt, which is now at $23 trillion. We're working on $1 trillion deficit per year right now, because we basically cut our revenues. If we're looking at it from a business perspective. And then we don't have money to fund things. So if we raise those rates for the rich, we can then now start reinvesting and expanding on those things.
So what are the other issues that you plan to address in Congress?
So there's a lot of issues for a lot of people, but some of the big ones, and for somebody in Congress, I'm running for a federal office. Things like Medicare for all, expanding that option. I want to expand that, and we need to get rid of these high deductibles that people have, and they can't afford to go to the doctors because their deductible's $6,000. So you basically out that money up until that point. I don't have an extra $6,000 laying around. And I want to leave the option of a private insurance option for those that want it. If you have enough money and you want to pay for your private insurance, fine. It's very difficult to just automatically say, no, we're getting rid of private insurance and we're just going Medicare for all. We kind of need to do it in steps, and I think that's the solution. Improving civil rights is important to me.
Yep.
We need to give the EEOC more power. I think right now, if you're discriminated against, you file a claim, the EEOC might come to a determination.
Which is what? The EEOC is what?
The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
I see.
So if you feel like you're discriminated against for sex, race, religion, and you file a claim, maybe you're not hired because
How about weight? Weight?
I don't think weight is considered covered, actually. Just sex. So, no, that's not there. But you file a claim, and typically the EEOC will only find discrimination in 5% of cases. And at the end of the day, they will issue you a letter that says, here's a right to sue. Then you, as somebody who's discriminated against, you have to go find a lawyer that's willing to take your case. It's going to cost money. The EEOC doesn't really have power. OSHA goes in and investigates safety violations.
Yes.
They're going to get fined.
Yes.
Why is our EEOC not given that freedom? I mean, because really at the end of the day, it's like companies, big corporations aren't really deterred to discriminate. And even if you do successfully find a lawyer to take your case, you win the case, there's a $300,000 cap for the large corporations on damages, which, you're looking at a corporation that's worth millions and millions of dollars. That's pennies to them. They don't care about $300,000.
So you have the backing of others? Are you going to lobby with other representatives to do this? Or how does this work? Is this your idea, or how many have the same idea?
So,
For example, in this...
my opponent is very different. If we're talking in terms of that, she's a little bit more focused on local issues, and from what I have seen. So, I don't know that I'll have her backing if I win the primary, but I do believe that yes. I mean, my campaign manager is pretty well connected politically, and I think that we would have some backing from some pretty important people to move those things forward.
What is your plan to protect the environment?
Well, with that, so I live in the Woodlands.
Yes.
Oil and gas is big here. And, we can't just cut off oil and gas again, kind of like Medicare for all. We can't just immediately make that change. We need to make small changes, but we need to start now because we're already late. We need to improve, funding for OSHA, investigators. I believe the current administration is trying to cut that funding. That we can't have that because if investigators aren't going in, corporations are going to try to get away with doing things they're not supposed to. We need to start investing and encouraging companies to invest in renewable energy, offering some types of incentives. A lot of people that depend on, fossil fuel work, they're going to be out of jobs. So we have to figure out how we're going to transition those people to renewable energy jobs. And we can't ignore it any longer. We have to, come up with an actual plan and start doing it, not just talking about it.
What is your plan to improve public education? Because part of about the environment, the past question has to do with education. I was like, what do we know? There's some people that don't think that climate change is real because they don't want to read the reports, the scientific reports. So,
yeah, it breaks my heart when I hear that. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was 65 degrees here in Houston and 65 degrees in Antarctica. I really don't think that's normal. So somebody that says climate change isn't real, it's a little shocking to me.
So education is important.
But education, we need more teachers, our schools, and more counselors. I think our kids are they're not getting that one-on-one, that more attention that they need. So we need to improve funding for that.
And your plan to address gun violence?
So
somehow everything is related, the environment, education, gun violence.
They're all connected. So gun violence, the background check, universal background checks has already passed in the House. It's sitting in the Senate. We need to move that forward. I do believe we need to reinstate the ban on assault rifles and have a voluntary buyback program. If you have an assault rifle now and you decide later you don't want it anymore, you give the government the first opportunity to buy it back.
The background check, in my opinion, is the most important. The background check, the mental stability of the person,
Correct.
the history, the violence history.
Yes.
Well, we have 3 minutes left, so I want to ask you what your experience is, what's the background, why are you the best qualified candidate to address these issues? And also, how'd you get interested in politics?
So my background is accounting. I've been working in the accounting industry for roughly 20 years. I'm actually wrapping up my accounting degree at Sam Houston State University this July. With that background, since a lot of our issues are fiscal in nature, I can take that to Congress and help address the debt issues, the deficits. And since everything, as we've kind of discussed, everything's fiscal in nature, the money flows down to Medicare, the money flows down to funding for EEOC, OSHA, education, improving teacher ratios, improving counselors, so we can address some of those emotional issues at an early age for the gun violence issues. So we have, I want to mention real quick, 9 accountants in the House and 2 in the Senate. We need more accountants. It's astonishing to me that we have more doctors than accountants in Congress. And with my accounting background, I know that I can tackle that problem.
What is your website? How can people volunteer, help out?
Liz for Texas 8, and that's LIZFORTX, the number 8.com. I am on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and all my ats are Liz for Texas 8. My website is very detailed on these issues that we've discussed in briefly, and will allow people to see more details about my plans.
Are you inviting the younger generations to get
Yes, absolutely. Considering that I'm at Sam Houston State about to graduate, I am reaching out to the college Democrats at that school. The sociology department has reached out to me, the LULAC. So we're trying to reach out there to get volunteers. I also have a Facebook page and a Facebook group for volunteers. We are going to be block walking, and we need volunteers to go with us so we can get the word out and get people to vote.
Well, great. Thank you very much for being here, and welcome back as soon as you can.
Thank you.
Continue with this conversation. Thank you for giving us a civics lesson. So this is Radio The Boss, KNOY 91.1 here in the Woodlands, Texas. And we were with our Democratic candidate for U.S. House of Representatives, District 30. What was the district? 8. District 8. District 8. Okay, and my name is Rigo, and goodbye for today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I'm Elizabeth Hernandez, and I'm running for Congress to address the growing wealth inequality in America. I'll improve public education with more teachers. I'll stop the war on Social Security and expand Medicare for all. I'll also protect your jobs with stronger discrimination laws, enforcing equal pay for equal work. Vote Elizabeth Hernandez, Democrat for Congress, on March 3rd. I'm Elizabeth Hernandez, and I approve this message.
This was a proud sponsor of KNLY 91.1 FM.